All right, let's dive right in. We are about to get into one of the biggest, most personal questions you can possibly ask. Are you really in control of your own life? We're going to take a journey into the whole idea of free will, a belief that honestly shapes everything about how we see ourselves. Just think about that for a second. The career path you're on, who you fell in love with, heck, even what you decided to have for lunch today. What if every single one of those choices was put into motion long before you were even aware you were making it? It's a pretty wild idea, and it's exactly what we're here to unpack. You know, this isn't some new age question. For centuries, the smartest people in philosophy and science have been wrestling with this exact same thing. So we're going to follow their trail, starting with the arguments from way back in the day before we jump into the mind-bending science of the brain and the tricky forces of our modern world. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to go back to the beginning. See, this debate over free will, it isn't new at all. It's a foundational question that ancient philosophers used to figure out what it even means to be human. This whole debate really boils down to two huge competing ideas. On one side, you've got thinkers like Aristotle. For him, choice was everything. I mean, without it, how could you have moral responsibility? How could you praise someone for being good or punish them for being bad if they weren't really in the driver's seat? But on the other side, you have the determinists, like Spinoza, who basically saw the universe as this giant, perfectly ordered machine of cause and effect. And this is the absolute core of that determinist view. If every single thing that happens is caused by something that happens before it, in this one long, unbroken chain, well then your thoughts and your decisions are just another link in that chain. They're an effect of a prior cause, not some spontaneous thing you just created out of thin air. In that worldview, there's just no room for a you that's separate from the machine pulling the levers. Okay, so the philosophical debate really set the stage, right? But now, with modern technology, we can actually look for answers inside the very organ that's making our choices, the brain. And this is where neuroscience comes in, and things get really interesting. Before we get into the data, just ask yourself this simple question. When you decide to do something, say, just lift your finger, when does that choice happen? Is it the exact moment you think, okay, I'm gonna lift it now? Well, the answer, as it turns out, is a lot weirder than you might think. So this brings us to a famous study by a scientist named Benjamin Libet. The setup was actually super clever in its simplicity. They hooked people up to an EEG to watch their brain activity, and they asked them to do one simple thing. Just flex your wrist whenever you feel like it. And then, this is the key part, tell us the exact moment you made the conscious decision to do it. And here is the absolute bombshell result. The experiment showed that a specific pattern of brain activity would start building up a few hundred milliseconds before the person felt like they'd made a choice. Let me say that again, because it's a big deal. Your brain starts preparing to act before you are even aware that you've decided to. This finding just turns our whole idea of choice on its head. I mean, if your brain is already getting the ball rolling before you're consciously on board, then what is your conscious mind even doing? Is that feeling of being in charge just a story we tell ourselves after the decision has already been made by our brain? But look, the forces that are shaping us aren't just buried deep in our biology. No, they are all around us every single day. So let's shift our focus from the internal stuff to the external pressures that are constantly guiding our decisions. Just think about your own life. From the time you're a kid, social conditioning from your family and culture is hardwiring your deepest beliefs and what you want out of life. Then you grow up and you're just swimming in this ocean of marketing and media, all of it designed to nudge your choices towards certain things. And now we have these unbelievably powerful algorithms that are personalizing that influence, showing you exactly what they think you want to see to steer you down a certain path. So this begs a really powerful question. When you pick a new show to binge watch or a place to go on vacation, are you making a totally free and independent choice? Or are you maybe just acting on a preference that has been carefully watered and grown for you by all these outside forces? Okay, I know, this can all start to feel a little bleak. If our brain makes up its mind before we do, and society is constantly pushing and pulling us, are we just puppets? Well, maybe the problem isn't that these influences exist, but how we define freedom in the first place. This brings us to a totally new way of thinking about it. Maybe true freedom isn't about being this magical being with zero influences from your biology or your culture, because let's be honest, that's probably impossible. Instead, what if true freedom is simply the awareness of all these forces? It's the ability to see the strings, even if you can't completely cut all of them. So how do we actually do this? A great place to start is just with mindfulness. Simply watching your own thoughts and urges come and go without immediately acting on them. From there, you start to build self-awareness. You start asking, why do I want this? Where did this belief come from? And in that little space you create between an impulse and your action, that's where you find the power to consciously choose how you respond. That's where your freedom really is. So, in the end, maybe we've been asking the wrong question this whole time. Maybe the important thing isn't some abstract idea of absolute free will. Maybe the most meaningful freedom we actually have is the ability to become aware of all the forces shaping us, our genes, our brain, our culture, and to then decide, with our eyes wide open, how we're going to respond to them. And that, right there, might be what it truly means to be in control.